Welcome to Antioch Baptist Church. We thank God you chose to worship with us today. We hope you hear something today that will inspire you throughout the week.
Let me express my sincere thanks to those of you who, on last week and this week, contributed to this effort that we're trying with these young boys and trying to get them to college. We really appreciate that. This weekend, because of your help, they're going to be playing before some 600 coaches. And if there's ever an opportunity for them to get a scholarship, it's now. I remember when we took the team that Marcus was on. Every kid on that team had a scholarship offer before they left that tournament. Now, they had the offer. What they did with it was their business, but they had the offer. And some of them were D1 schools, and some were D2 schools, and some were JUCOs, but it didn't matter. It was college. And all of those kids, with the exception of one, did go to college. And one of them kind of went to the streets. But we stayed up with that one, and even today, these many years later, we're still with those kids. And a lot of those kids are now coming back and helping to coach the young boys that are here now. So we really appreciate your help. We're just, man, it's so crazy out there with, you can't even go to Best Buy without worrying about somebody coming by with some craziness in their head, spraying some bullets, and you happen to be the victim of one of those bullets. Here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, I'm not talking about Colorado. I'm talking about Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's scary. So we're trying to do more than just basketball. There were some parents who left our team because we kept some kids on the team that we had labeled as ministry. Ministry. Yes, they should have been put off the team. But if we had put them off the team, no matter where they would be right now, the streets had already claimed them, and we were trying to get them back from the streets. And some parents left the team. And I just shook my head and said, well, I'm sorry, but you don't understand what we're trying to do. We're trying to save a life. We're trying to get a kid to adulthood. We're trying to help a kid understand that there's something better than the streets. And if you think we ain't got a challenge today, you need to wake up. We got a serious challenge. We got kids on our team right now, who are so heavy in the streets that, man, you just want to beat them up. Just go to jail, just beat them up. But you can't do that. You got to try to influence to where they make good decisions, because once you beat them up in their heel, they're going to make the bad decision again anyhow. So you try to get in their heads and try to create some better decisions. But they have an opportunity just for this 1 week, an opportunity. They've already been seen by coaches. Some of them I know are going to go D1. Some of them will only go JUCO. I won't lie to them. But you know what? You'll be in college anyhow, and you'll have an opportunity. But this 1 week, they're going to have an awesome opportunity to get a college scholarship. And thanks to your help, you're making that possible for us, because these things have gotten awful expensive. And Kenea's part ain't got no more wallet. I'm the one you have to fall back on, but I ain't got no more wallet. But so we really, really, truly thank you for helping us with this effort. Let's get to the business at hand. And this is an awesome, awesome verse for me, and I hope you feel it as I felt it. 9th verse. Only do not rebel against the Lord, nor fear the people of the land, for they are our bread. I don't want to go no further. Let it soak for a moment. Only do not rebel against the Lord, nor fear the people of the land, for they are our bread. Underline it. For they are our bread. Somebody should have been shouting. And the reason they should have been shouting is because every time situations come, we let the situations have the dominant part in our life. They create fear in our life. They make us tremble. They make us rebel against the Lord. And we don't understand the situation is nothing but our bread. That's all. Let me tell you what happened, and then maybe you'll kind of feel it. You remember that the people had come out of Egypt. They're on their way to Canaan. All the drama of the wilderness is about over. Having no marketplace to buy food, having to beg for water, having to complain, all that's about over. Everything that they had been told about Canaan was just within arm reach. They are about to get there. But somebody, you always got somebodies. Somebody suggested that we not enter the land before we go and see what the land is all about. Now, you got to hear that, because God, who had brought them out of Egypt, when they never thought they would get out of Egypt, when they thought that Egypt would be their dying place, but God had brought them out of Egypt. God, who had brought them through a horrible wilderness, Red Seas and no food, a horrible wilderness. Now they are in arm's reach of God's promise. This God who had done all of that had promised them that he would give them Canaan. Not that they had to buy Canaan. Not that they had to be deserving of Canaan. Aren't you glad that God does not rest his blessings upon our being deserving? Well, I don't know about you, but if he first said, let me see if Potter is deserving, I might as well bow my head right now. Because there are some times when I ain't deserving of nothing. His mercy, his grace, nothing. But he has promised me something. I will be with you all the way. And that had to mean, even when you're not doing so good, even when you're not the best that you could be, even when your way is a troubled way, I have promised you that I will be with you all the way. Now, this God who had made that promise, they are in arm's reach of that promise. And somebody says, we need to go see first what's in the land before we go into the land. What you gonna do with it anyway? You can go see all you want to, and what can you do with it anyway? You want to see into your situation. You want to understand what's going to happen in your situation. You want to understand what's down the road. What you gonna do with it anyhow? You can't do nothing with it. If God was not on your side, if God was not lifting you up, if God was not holding you, you couldn't do nothing with it anyhow. What you want to see for? So, they suggested that they go and spy out. Circle that word, spy out. Spy to me suggests that I'm going to sneak into, I'm going to hide as I observe, and I'm going to make some observation and then sneak back out so that I will not draw attention to myself, spy out the land. But it was also interesting that Moses approved it. They suggested it, and Moses approved it. Why didn't Moses say, "You foolish people, God has already promised you the land. Just go in"? But Moses approved it. And I think that's somewhere in Deuteronomy around the first chapter. Matter of fact, let's read it. Deuteronomy, first chapter, verse 23. The plan pleased me well, so I took 12 of your men, one from each tribe, and they departed and went up into the mountains and came to the valley. The plan pleased me well. Moses, you ought to know better. You ought to know that these are some fickle people. You remember when you went up on the mount to receive a word from God, and when you got back, they had taken all their jewelry and made a golden calf and were dancing and worshiping the golden calf. These are fickle people, Moses. Don't you remember that in the wilderness they said, had it not been better that we had stayed in Egypt than to come here and die? Fickle people. People who are scared. And when you are scared, you are fickle. Let that one soak a moment. When you fear something, there is no stability. It's no telling which way you might go or what you might do, because you are afraid. And some of our situations got us scared to death. And there is no stability about us. We're fickle. One day we're one way and the next day we're another way. We don't know who we are, where we're going. We are fickle. But Moses went on and approved the plan and selected some men to go do it. And the men he selected was from the top leadership. Not down here, but up here, the top leadership. And sent them to go and spy out the land. You remember that they did. Went in, looked at the land. Now, this is what they had been told in the promise. Let me say this first. They had been told that it was a land flowing with milk and honey. Went in, spied out the land, and they had the nerves to bring back some of the milk and honey of that land. But they also brought back something else. We can't do it. The land is too much for us. They even said, the land will eat us up. The inhabitants of the land are like giants, and compared to them, we are as grasshoppers. We might as well stay where we are and not go in. A horrible wilderness that they had cried about. They were willing to stay there instead of just going a few steps further on into a land flowing with milk and honey. Because when they saw the men, there are some men in your situation that are like giants. And you know what? They are scary if you let them scare you. It was interesting when they said that the land will eat us up. And this is what they meant. Now note this now. Because the land is so rich, other nations will always be wanting to come in. And we're going to spend all of our time having to fight to keep the land. Some things we have, some husbands, some jobs, some wives, some things we have are so rich that we're almost willing to give them up because we don't want to fight for them day after day after day. There are some wives who are willing to give it up right now, because their husband is so on it. Every woman's gonna want their husband. And they ain't willing to be fighting day after day. It ain't worth all that. Yes, it is. The land was flowing with milk and honey. They were going to be eating stuff that they didn't plant. They were going to be living in houses that they didn't build. It was worth it. But they decided it will not be good for us all the time having to fight. You ought to be willing to fight for something that's good to you. If you ain't willing to fight for it, you don't deserve it. You know that? You don't deserve it. They can have it. But it's been good to you. Why won't you fight for it? They said the land will eat us. We'll always be at war. Every time you turn around, we'll be at war. Every time you turn around, somebody be trying to come in and take over. Let's just stay in this misery where we are, instead of going a little bit further and fighting for something that's rich. That's rich. But you know what was interesting? And I think I tried to do this in a sermon once. The report they brought back, no place in that report did they tell a lie. Not one place did they tell a lie. The land was flowing with milk and honey. They brought back the proof. There were giant-like men in the land. They saw them. That was the truth. The land will eat us up. The land will be always a situation where we got to fight. We got to fight. That is true. You remember, some years later when they were getting ready to divide the land, and Joshua came up to Caleb and said to Caleb, you know what? Oh, yeah, we have possessed the land, but there's still some wars to be. And that mountain that you want, that was promised you, you will always be fighting for that mountain. Let me give you a place that you won't have to fight for. You know what Caleb said? He said, I was promised that every place my foot touched would be mine. And I want my mountain. And if I got to fight for my mountain, that's okay. Give me my mountain. Some of us got the mountain. Man, do you understand? We got the mountain and want to go down to the valley and live. But the reason I had you underline some things in that 9th verse was because Joshua and Caleb had a different perspective. They couldn't argue with what the report was. They didn't even try to. But look what they said. Go back to Numbers 14. I'm going to go up to 7th. The land we passed through to spy out is an exceedingly good land. If the Lord delights in us, then he will bring us into this land and give it to us, a land which flows with milk and honey. Only do not rebel against the Lord, nor fear the people of the land, for they are our bread. You know what, people? We go eat them up. And the reason why we go eat them up is because the Lord is on our side. Not because we got the great army. I think it was some 600,000 men or something. Don't quote me, but go back and read it and see. Some 600,000 men. We don't have enough. It wasn't because we have the army to do it. It's not because we are so intelligent. It's not even because we deserve it. You all remember something? You remember that God says, because you are a rebellious people, nobody of this generation is going to enter into the land. But Joshua and Caleb simply says, the Lord is on our side. That's all. We ain't got nothing else. In your situation, I don't care how giant-like it appears. I don't care all the particulars about it that has troubled you to where you are just downright scared. Those things do not matter. They are bread to you. Give us our daily bread. And the Lord puts it on the table in a plate in front of you. And because there seems to be some situation that challenges the bread on the plate in front of you, you don't want to reach and grab it. Joshua and Caleb said, if the Lord delight in us. You know what was interesting? They suggested it. Moses approved it. And God permitted it. God could have wiped them out right then, but he permitted them to go on into the land and spy it out. He permitted it. Sometimes God has to show us. Show us. Sometimes God lets us enter just enough into our situation to where we get scared to death, but God is looking for this. Will you say, if the Lord be with me, he's more than the world against me. If the Lord be with me, I don't care what I'm faced, I am going to overcome this. I don't care that the doctors have said the cancer's all over your body and you just got a few months or weeks or days to live. I don't care about that. If the Lord delight in me, I don't care that my house is about to get repossessed and I've lost my job and I don't have any money in my pocket. If the Lord delights in me, you think everybody who lost a job is losing their house? Somebody still paying their mortgage. And some of them can't tell you how they doing it. They ain't got no job, but their mortgage. There are some people, I can name one, but I'm not going to do it, who the doctors gave 3 weeks to live. And I know it's been almost 3 years. And they are getting better and better and better. If the Lord delights in me. You know what it all boils down to? This is the only prayer, Lord. And that man said it. Lord, it's what you want to do with this. That's all. That's all it amounts to. what you want to do with it. Because I know you can do everything you want to, but it's what you want to do with it. Your situation, and I know sometimes they say, matter of fact, my own daughter told me yesterday, she said, you just blow everything off. I told her, you know what? If you didn't, you'd be stone crazy. Because the stuff coming to you is so crazy, you can't mess with all that junk. You don't even want to think about it. All you got to do is say, Lord, have mercy. That's all you do. Lord, have mercy. Lord, have mercy. And keep going on down the road. What you gonna do with it anyhow? So you just simply say, Lord, have mercy, and go on. Because if the Lord delights in me, don't miss your blessing. Because you scared of some situation, or some situation ain't going like you think you want it to go. You got to understand, it ain't nothing but bread on a plate. And the Lord likes to serve up bread. He loves to serve up bread. So when I do say, give me my daily bread, I'm simply saying, put before me the answers to all my situations, all my concerns, all my headache, all my problems. And in my lack of understanding, I tremble. I tremble. But I yet have faith and trust that you're going to make it all right. You can do that. But when you done sat back and made it up in your mind, I ain't moving, I ain't going nowhere, I ain't doing this, you make God angry. And there is no telling what God might do. My subject for this thought this Sunday morning was simply this: eat your bread.
Thank you for worshiping with us today. Check out our website and see how we're touching our community for Christ. And if you would like more information on this broadcast, please contact us at the number listed below. And have a blessed day.